Thanksgiving break was supposed to be calm that year, quiet even. My parents had flown out to California to visit my aunt after her divorce, and my brother was at a sleepover with his best friend. So the house, it was just me, completely alone. I remember lying in bed late that night, scrolling through Snapchat Spotlight and random videos. Nothing important, just the usual stuff you watch when you're trying to fall asleep. The house was dead silent. No TV, no footsteps, not even the hum of the AC. And then, I heard it, a slow, steady knocking on my bedroom door. Not the kind of knock you make with your hand. It was deeper, hollow, almost like someone tapping a wooden bat against the door. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I actually thought it was my brother being an idiot and trying to scare me, but then it hit me. He wasn't home. Nobody was. That's when the confusion set in. I just stared at the door, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. The knocking wasn't rushed or panicked. It was patient, like whoever, or whatever, was doing it had all the time in the world. I made the mistake of speaking. I said, "Who's there?" And I swear to you, what answered me still haunts me today. First it sounded like an old woman, but halfway through the second word, the voice shifted. It changed into my mom's voice. Not an impression of her, not something similar. It was her voice, perfect, exact, the same tone, the same pitch, everything. And hearing that when I knew she was hundreds of miles away, that's a kind of fear you can't explain. My mind immediately tried to make sense of it. I thought maybe I had left the TV on, or a video on my phone had started playing, but nothing made sense. How could a TV replicate my mom's voice so perfectly, right outside my door? The knocking continued, slow, steady, patient. I didn't say another word. I couldn't. My whole body felt frozen. I backed into my closet and shut the door behind me. I don't even remember walking there. It was just instinct, like my body took over for me. Inside the closet, I grabbed my phone and called my mom. I whispered, "Where are you right now?" She sounded tired. She said, "We're in California." Why? I didn't want to scare her or make her worry, so I just whispered, "It's nothing," and ended the call. Right after that, the knocking came again. Only this time it wasn't tapping, it was slamming. Like someone was swinging that imaginary baseball bat as hard as they could against my door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. I pressed both hands over my mouth to keep from breathing too loudly, and through the pounding I heard it again. My mom's voice, except it wasn't right. It was raspy, broken, distorted. Hey, I'm back. Hey, I'm back." Hearing that voice, my mom's voice, say something she never says in a tone she's never used, it still makes my stomach twist. What really terrified me was how limited the voice seemed. Like it only knew a handful of phrases and kept repeating them. I realized whatever was outside my door, it wasn't mimicking my mom completely. It was copying pieces, just enough to trick me into opening the door. I don't know what pushed me to say it, but I finally yelled out, "What's your name then?" Everything went silent. For a few seconds I thought it had gone away, but then slowly, a few soft knocks. Tap, 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 and the voice answered, except it didn't give a name. It just repeated the same broken phrases. Hey, come out. I'm back now. I'm back now." The way it said it, the way the voice dragged the words like it was getting tired or like it was running out of material to mimic. I don't know how to describe it, but I knew without a shadow of a doubt, that thing wasn't human. It stayed there, knocking, repeating, trying, long enough that I lost track of time. Minutes felt like hours. I sat in the closet shaking, crying quietly into my knees, trying not to make a sound. At some point, it stopped. Just like that. No footsteps, no whisper, no fading sound. One moment it was there, and the next it wasn't, but I didn't come out. I couldn't. I stayed in the closet until the sun started coming up through the window. I remember opening the door slowly, waiting to see some kind of shadow or figure, but the hallway was empty. My bedroom door had dents in it, small ones like the shape of a rounded stick or bat hitting the surface over and over. I didn't sleep the next night, or the night after that. Even now, years later, I can't sleep alone without thinking of that voice, that distorted version of my mom saying the words, hey, I'm back." A few days after the incident, I started searching online, trying to see if anyone else had ever heard something like that. That's when I stumbled onto stories about mimics, entities that imitate voices, people, sounds, but they always get something just slightly wrong. That's exactly what I heard. Believe me or don't, call it a story if you want, but I know what happened. What stood outside my bedroom door that night wasn't a burglar. It wasn't the TV. It wasn't my imagination. It was something pretending to be my mother. something trying to get me to open that door. And the part that still keeps me up at night is this: if I had opened the door, I really don't think I'd be here telling this story. I've worked a hybrid 9-to-5 job for a few years now. Nothing special, just research, data work, the usual office stuff. Our team was small, just 5 of us, and our lab was huge compared to what we actually needed. We each had our own corners, our own little islands, and even though we weren't talkative people, we all worked well together. It was the kind of place where you almost forgot other people existed. The hallways were always quiet, the labs always half-lit, and it wasn't uncommon to go hours without seeing anyone outside of our team. Anyway, this happened on one of our in-person work days. We had a touch-base meeting scheduled at the end of the day with our department head. Jack, our team manager, was in a good mood and suggested we grab coffee across the street before the meeting. It was winter and daylight was starting to fade, so we stood outside for a few minutes drinking hot coffee, trying to breathe in whatever fresh air we could before heading back in. Our lab wasn't far from the entrance, so we didn't think much of walking through the building with only a few minutes left before the meeting started. I was walking with Ryan and Brandon. We were trailing behind while Jack and our other teammate, Ashley, walked ahead. And that's when we saw him. A man. Tall, broad, wearing casual clothes and a baggy winter sweater. His hair was scruffy, and he had this lumbering walk heading away from our lab toward the main hall. We didn't see his face at first, just his build, his clothes, the way he moved. And immediately we all exchanged the same look. No one in our building dressed like that, not even the janitors or maintenance people. We had a strict business casual dress code. Everyone looked clean, polished, put together. This guy didn't match the building at all. We told Jack and Ashley, but they brushed it off. Ashley said, maybe he's a new handyman. I wanted to believe that, but even the handymen wore uniforms. Still, we didn't push it. We just walked in and started getting ready for the meeting. A couple minutes later, Janice, our department head, walked in with her usual fast pace and sharp attitude. She made some snarky comment about how relaxed we looked. Typical Janice. Jack casually asked her, do we have a new lab technician? She shrugged. Not that I know of. HR handles that. Why? Jack explained what we saw. Janice said maybe another lab had hired someone for renovations. Nothing unusual, but Brandon and I didn't feel great about that answer. Our desks were closest to the door, his right beside it, and we kept glancing over, not really knowing what we expected. Then, the door opened, and the man stepped inside. Well, he didn't step in fully. He only poked his head through the doorway, but that was enough. His face. I still remember every detail. His skin was an unhealthy shade of pale, not just winter pale, sick pale. His eyes were different colors. One was this golden hazel tone, the other was a washed-out grayish white. At first I tried to convince myself he maybe had a medical condition, or an injury. Something logical, but something about the way he looked at us, the way he smirked at Brandon and me, it didn't feel human. It felt like he already knew we were the ones who noticed him earlier. He said, hey, is everything okay in here? I'm just working in this wing. Let me know if you have electrical problems. Janice barely looked up. We're all good, thank you. He stared at me, then at Brandon, smiled again, and closed the door. Brandon and I locked eyes immediately, both of us tense. Ashley looked over at me like I was overreacting. I mumbled something about needing to use the washroom before the meeting. The bathroom was right across the hall, one of those long ones with 8 stalls. I went in trying to shake off the feeling, but as I walked back out, I saw him again, the same man, holding a tool, walking toward our lab door. He saw me. I panicked and ran back into the washroom, locking myself in a stall. Another woman in one of the stalls asked, "Are you okay?" All I had time to say was, "Shoo." Then the main door of the washroom swung open, but there were no footsteps, no shadow under the stalls, no movement at all, just silence. The woman slowly stepped out of her stall. I heard the tap turn on for a second, then off, then her gasp, and then nothing. No running, no talking, just nothing. I don't know how long I stayed inside, but eventually I heard the normal sounds of people leaving for the day. Conversations, footsteps, doors closing, the usual end-of-shift noises. I stepped out slowly. Everything looked completely normal. Lights turning off in the other wing, people heading home. I practically ran back into our lab. Brandon looked at me right away. "You okay?" he asked. I told him what I saw. He swore nobody had come in since I left. No strange man, no maintenance guy, nothing. The meeting finished uneventfully, but the tension stayed. As we all packed up to leave, Jack opened the door to the parking lot. He was talking while walking backward, when he suddenly looked over my shoulder and froze. Then he shouted, "Hey, sorry, everything okay? That room is fine, we were just in there." We all turned. The man was standing at our lab door, open, just smiling. Jack walked back and locked the door, and as he turned around to rejoin us, the man started running toward him. Full sprint. Jack bolted. We all panicked and ran out the nearest exit, and the man, he laughed, not a normal laugh. Something sharp, breathy, like he was enjoying watching us run. We didn't stop until we were outside. We all drove home separately, texting each other until we reached our houses safely. The next day we returned to the lab, still uneasy but trying to be normal. During a delivery run to another lab, I bumped into an admin named Penny, super cheerful person. I casually asked her, "Hey, who's the new hire working on the electrical stuff?" She looked confused. "There isn't a new hire. They contracted a company, and they leave at 3 p.m. I told her what happened after 4. She insisted the building was locked. No one should have been inside. During lunch, Jack and I followed up. Penny just shrugged. "There wasn't anyone there." "Are you sure you saw someone?" We were sure. We asked Janice next. Did she remember talking to the man? She looked at us like we were crazy. "I didn't talk to anyone yesterday," she said, but she did. We all heard her respond to him. When we told the team that, we all sat there quietly, trying to process it. There was no proof, no record, no camera footage, nothing. Eventually, we just moved on with our project. But sometimes, when I'm working late, or when I walk past a half-lit lab, I still think about him, about that pale face, those mismatched eyes, and how nobody else, not even the building, seems to remember he was ever there. I grew up in a remote village in Romania, and when I say remote, I mean the kind of place where the world feels like it ends a few miles before you reach it. No castles, no tourist spots, just endless cold fields, a heavy silence, and a forest that looked like it wanted to swallow you whole. My grandparents raised me out there. Their property was big, almost too big. 2 separate buildings about 200 meters apart. The main house sat by the road, wrapped in a long wooden veranda where my grandma and I spent most of our time. In the summers we slept out there on an old couch under strings of warm fairy lights. It was peaceful during the day. My grandpa, though, lived almost entirely in the back half of the property where the animals were kept. A couple horses, some cows, and more chickens, ducks, and turkeys than anyone could ever need. That part of the yard sat right at the forest line, and because of that, we got all kinds of visitors. Foxes, polecats, wild boars, even bears sometimes. We had guard dogs, big, muscular things, but not even they could handle the forest alone. My grandpa always said that out there, the animals weren't the only things that came out at night. I used to laugh when he said stuff like that. I don't laugh anymore. The thing I hated most in the world was the outhouse. It sat up on a slope, way past the silos and my grandpa's cabin. It was the only bathroom we had. 200 meters away doesn't sound like much, until you have to walk it at night with the forest basically breathing down your neck. One night in late autumn, I made the mistake of going out there after dark. It was freezing, cold enough that my breath came out in white clouds. The air smelled like wet dirt and rotting leaves. Wolves were howling deep in the forest. That wasn't unusual, but our dogs were barking along with them this time, barking like something was terribly wrong. My grandmother always said dogs knew when evil things were nearby. I always thought it was just superstition. I wish she'd been wrong. The moon that night was massive, not quite full, but bright enough to wash the whole yard in this pale, sick-looking light. Out there, the shadows always felt safer than the open. The light made me feel exposed, almost watched, and that's when I saw it. I was halfway up the hill when something on top of the corn silo caught my eye. At first I thought it was just a trick of the moon, but then it moved. There was a shape crouched there, huge, much, covered in this ragged brown and gray fur that looked patchy in the moonlight. Its eyes reflected the light, glowing yellow like a wolf's, but bigger, too big, and they weren't just looking in my direction. They were locked straight onto me. I don't remember breathing. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I was going to throw up. And the strangest thing, even in my panic, what I focused on most were its feet. These massive, paw-like things with long black claws that hung over the edge of the silo, like it could leap down at any second. But it didn't. It just watched me. I forced myself to keep walking, slow, steady, like I was trying not to provoke it. I didn't run. I didn't look away. Just walked to the outhouse and slipped inside, shutting the door as quietly as I could. I locked it and backed away until my shoulders hit the wooden wall. It was pitch dark inside. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely breathe without making a sound. I held my hand over my mouth because I had this instinctive, absolute certainty that if I made a noise, that thing would hear me. Then I heard the footsteps, not boots, not shoes, something heavier, something with weight, something with claws. They crunched slowly across the gravel outside, circling the outhouse. Once, twice, then stopping right next to the door. Its breathing followed. Oh, what? Slow. It wasn't sniffing for me. It already knew exactly where I was. I dug my teeth into my hand just to stop myself from crying out. I remember tasting blood, but I didn't dare let go. I pressed my shoulder into the door like that tiny wooden latch would do anything if the thing decided it wanted in. Sometimes the footsteps were slow, like it was testing the ground. Other times they sped up suddenly, like it was darting around the building just to mess with me. I don't know how long it lasted. It felt like hours. My vision kept going in and out. My body was so tense it hurt to move. At some point, I must have passed out from fear because the next thing I remember is my grandmother shaking me awake in the morning light. I was lying on the outhouse floor, freezing cold. My hand was torn open from my own bite. My face was swollen from crying. She didn't scold me. She didn't ask why I'd gone out there. She just looked at me, like she knew. Finally, she said one thing, one single thing. "The dogs didn't stop howling last night," she told me. Not once, not until the moment the sun came up. I never went to the outhouse at night again. And even now, years later, when I think about those glowing yellow eyes on top of the silo, I don't think it was a wolf. I don't think it was a bear. I think my grandfather was right. Out there, in those forests, the animals aren't the only things that come out after dark.